Thank you very much. Hello, and a very good day to you all, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to an introduction to the Change a Brief Alliance. So we're delighted that you've chosen to spend some time with us to learn about Change a Brief, a new industry alliance aimed at addressing the climate crisis by changing the type of client work made by agencies. So I'm Rob McFaul. I'm the co-founder of Disruptors, along with Jonathan Wise and Lisa Merrick-Lawless. A bit more about our work in just a moment. But I'm delighted to say that we have a great panel of voices joining me today, sharing their thoughts and ambitions for the Alliance, all representing the founding members from the networks Havas, Omnicom, and WP, who helped turn our vision of the Alliance into a reality and help fulfill an ask from Mindshare to take Change a Brief from a simple toolkit into a single agency initiative to the pan-industry alliance you'll learn about today. So we have, yes, as we was introduced, Lola Neves, Head of Strategy at AMV, Rosie Kitson, and Tony Mattson, Head of Strategies at Mindshare and Havas Media. So a room full of planners having hopefully a good discussion on what Change a Brief Alliance means to strategy and the work. So you'll hear from them all in just a moment in the panel discussion. But first, I wanted to share a little bit about what Change a Brief Alliance is and why it exists. So if you've been getting up to speed on Ad Net Zero, you'll know there are 5 actions that the Ad Association recommends the industry needs to take. And delivering on action 5 is what we're here for today. How do we harness the creativity and the power of the industry to promote sustainable behaviours and attitudes in society? And to highlight Stephen Woodford's quote here, our industry has a meaningful role in helping fulfil ambitions of government and business. And on the eve of COP26, we've released the Change a Brief Alliance learning community and platform that will enable agencies and media owners and clients to understand what are sustainable behaviours and lifestyles and apply that knowledge to every brief they work on. So Purpose Disruptors is a community-based organisation and networking group of advertising professionals. We're all concerned about our climate emergency, and our vision is to help the industry transition so that it only creates work that leads us to halve emissions by 2030. And over the last 2 years, we have created a series of initiatives in line with that vision, including London Ad Industry's first ever Climate Crisis Summit, Create and Strike, where 160 CEOs signed a letter enabling their staff to join a global climate strike. And in 2020, over 700 people were involved in the Great Reset campaign, an initiative to help embed the positive environmental behaviours which we experienced during lockdown. And next week, we're at COP in the venue, both in the green and blue zones, sharing further projects. And you can get a sneak preview of our Good Life 2030 project a little later today. So joining Lisa and Omar on at 13:55, and it's going to be a really different type of session. So join that too. So on to why Change a Brief Alliance exists. I think to answer that, it's important to lean into the scale of the challenge and face the reality. And there's this brilliant quote from James Baldwin that speaks to that sentiment, that not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. So the reality is we are in a sliding doors moment. Greenhouse gas emissions have risen steadily since the birth of mass consumerism after the Second World War, and we've been leaving it later and later to act. What could have been a smooth glide path to net zero emissions now needs to be a handbrake turn if we are to halve our emissions by 2030. We need to turn fast and we need to turn hard. So it's a huge task ahead of us to shift society to live happy lives that are in line with a 1.5 degree world. So what's our contribution? As architects of desire, we can play a critical role in achieving this. Advertising can help transition society. The targets are clearly set. We need to halve emissions by 2030. And what we're seeing, there'll be 3 types of industry. Green, new low carbon brands born with a deep understanding of climate transformation that's coming our way. And our job in the industry will be what it's always been, to make these brands famous. And then you'll have red, high carbon brands that will be phased out through a combination of regulation and societal demand. And then the role of the Alliance is in the amber. Brands that can transition to low carbon, they will. So we have a crucial role to play in accelerating that transition. But we must act if we are to play that crucial role. And that's where Change a Brief comes in. If we see every campaign as an opportunity to normalize the behaviors, the products, the brands, and the services and the attitudes we all know we will need to adopt to achieve sustainable living and bring a zero carbon world forward. Because here's the thing. Yes, we need engineers and operational and supply chain people and scientists to bring about the change we need. But you as creatives, as communications experts, have a seat at the table too. You are the meaning makers, you influence culture, you are expert storytellers and behavior change specialists. But only by working together can we create the change needed at sufficient scale and speed. Paul Pullman, ex-CEO of Unilever, I think says it brilliantly here. And you've seen the chart. We don't have time to figure this out on our own. But working together on what here? So the Alliance provides members with the skills and knowledge to embed the change of brief concept into the work and into our agencies. It's a learning platform that hosts bite-sized video from experts who share what behavior and culture change needs to happen in categories and industries that we work on. And a community to share the latest thinking and provide the stimulus to shape and respond to briefs. And our ambition is that the Alliance and platform will generate a new skill set so we are fit for a zero carbon world. So we can create work that makes a meaningful difference. And that's what all these organizations here understand by supporting the Alliance. It's about working in solidarity, not in competition, to meaningfully tackle climate change, and to join with an open and collaborative attitude with a desire to change the future, to stimulate and share ideas that can change the world and get work out there for a better future. So get in touch if you'd like to know about more about the Change Brief Alliance. But for now, let's hear from our founding members about their experiences so far of the Alliance and their ambitions for the Alliance in the future. So if we can ask for my slides to be taken off screen. Excellent. We now have Rosie, Lola, and Tony with me. And sort of the first question that's coming up for me, that I'd love to discuss with you all is, what's connecting to you on this idea? Why is it important to you? Perhaps starting that question with, why does it matter for you on a personal level? And then also, let's talk about what it means for your agency and the organizations that you work with. And I'm going to, looking at Lola, who's to my right here. Lola, what comes up for you when I ask that question?
So personally, on a really personal level, I'm a mother, so the future for my son is obviously hugely important, obviously. And I think it's, this is our opportunity to be part of the solution rather than the problem. And I personally find that very motivating and fulfilling, giving a sense of purpose to what I do personally in my career. And then from a sort of agency department level, as head of department, I think the chance to sort of upskill our whole department and our agency to be able to actually help make that difference as well is hugely exciting and hugely inspirational. And also, I think it, would be great in terms of retaining and attracting more talent. The combination of sustainability, purpose, science, and creativity is a heady mixture of something that people would want to work in and want to be involved in.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lola. Tony, what's your response to that question?
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo some of the things that Lola mentioned. For me, this all started, I put my hand up and would say that prior to about 18 months ago, I was very naive about this topic, but began sort of exploring it through some client work. So it was a professional thing that got me into it in the first instance, is work with EDF, who themselves have obviously got involved with this, as you know, Rob, and we're working with them on the training. I think where that led me to is it's just a bit of a snowball. I suppose as you find out more, so a curious mind wants to find out more again. And I guess I take what Lola said about the spirit of working in the sorts of departments that we work in, the discipline that we work in. It naturally leads you to want to find out more about these sorts of topics. And then I think the personal bit for me hit a real sort of takeoff, which was the IPCC report. I also have a child, so a daughter, and I just did not know that the scale of the problem was as great as it was, and that the effects of it would be felt not just, and this is not to be flippant about it, but not just in places which naively have always felt like they suffer from certain problems because of temperature or climate or what have you, but very much sort of closer to home. And so for me, there feels now like a sense of urgency, I suppose, that comes about it. And that interestingly, that's then spilling over in lots of different ways. That's spilling much more into my personal life as well. And then from a professional agency point of view, we at Havas, we've got a sort of mission statement that sits across all of the agencies in the group, which talks about making a meaningful difference to the brands, the businesses, and the people that we work with. And, you know, it's not really stating the obvious too much to say that, you know, that is predicated on a good, healthy, sustainable planet on which those things can happen. You can't have those things without it. So consequently, this feels like a very natural place for the agency to lean into. And I'm pleased, and I'm here obviously as a representative of that, but can certainly speak to the work that people like sort of Paddy and Zav have done as our CEOs, that it connects with them in that sense too. So yeah, hence why we're certainly leaning in.
Completely. And yeah, Tony, as your first point, it brings to mind, saying we have a purpose disruptors, this idea that once you know, you can't not know. And it's from that understanding.
Yeah, I love that line. I've heard you say that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Rosie, what's coming up for you?
Well, always difficult to follow two eloquent people, but I would echo again everything that's been said already. But I think there's, from a personal level, again, I have children, so I want to ensure that when I leave them to go to work, I'm doing something that's ensuring a safe and happy future for them. But also, I love this industry. I find it fascinating, creative, and innovative, and I want to be proud of it. And I think that in order to be proud of it, I need to know that we're playing an active role in tackling the climate crisis. And I haven't always felt that way. So I think this represents an enormously important shift for me in how I view my industry that I love. And I guess one more thing I'd like to add, on an agency level, is that this is fundamentally business critical now. And if we don't support our clients in becoming change agents for a zero carbon future, we're risking them becoming obsolete, and we would follow swiftly behind them. So, it's absolutely critical, both from a business perspective, but also from a personal perspective.
Thanks, Rosie. Yeah, I mean, that came up for me too. So being in the industry nearly 15 years and loving the work, loving the ideas of, working with different clients and different challenges and the creativity and the people around it. And then knowing about the climate crisis, it would have been all too easy to leave and do something else. But there was something that felt, I really like working in this world, in this space. And there's just something about connecting so that we can be part of the solution.
I think if we believe that in the talent that we have in this agency and the influence that we can have, at its best, this industry results in mass behaviour change, then we can actually be proud of playing an active role in tackling the climate crisis. And that's pretty exciting, me on a personal level, but also certainly on an industry level as well.
Absolutely. So on to another question. So we released the Change a Brief Alliance training platform and community space only a couple of weeks ago, and you'll have seen a screenshot of some of the content that lives on that previously when I was doing my introduction. So I appreciate you may not have had a full experience of it yet, but I'd love to sort of hear from you what your initial experiences are of it, and then also what your ambitions might be for all that training and all that content that lives on that platform and the online community space as well. This idea of bringing everyone together across agencies, across networks, and breaking down some of that competition. Who should I invite to answer that question first? Tony, you're catching my eye there.
Am I? Okay, I'll go first. So I'll start with the sort of functionality, I suppose, of the training itself. So I've gone through quite a bit of it, partly because of this conversation now. I'm familiar with it, partly because of the topic we were just talking about. I found it very good. I think the tone of it is very positive. I like that. It's quite. It feels like for such a sort of meaty topic, the speakers deal with it in a very sort of empathetic, sympathetic maybe way, I suppose, to people that are coming to the topic with maybe not a huge amount of knowledge, which I would, as I say for me, I'm interested in this, but learning all the time. I like the mix of, I think the videos is a nice way of doing it, and the fact that you can then download the documents that they've presented afterwards. So that feels very helpful to me, so that you're not having to sort of try and scroll through the video content to find the bit that was helpful. And then at the end of each of the modules, as we were saying just previously, the sort of the long, not quite a bibliography, but the sort of further reading, reference points, articles, papers, blogs, etc., I think is golden. I mean, I was sort of surprised at the first one when I got, and then as I was going through all of them and finding all of this, it's fantastic, and so much to dive into. So I really like it. I'm sure it took an awful lot of effort to be able to get it to where it is, and I think as I say, I think the quality of the content, the tone of it, and its sort of accessibility, I think is great. I really like the spirit of what you've said as well about this sort of collective piece. You're quite right. I mean, it's so easy to sit within. We talk about competition all the time, don't we, with the clients, and inherently it's comes out in competitive pitches and all this sort of stuff. But I think the idea of sharing and the collective nature of your ambition for this, I love. And why wouldn't I want to? I mean, it's fascinating here, and even just in a short period now, what Rosie and Lola have said, and why would I not want to learn more from them in terms of the work that they're doing? It's such a complex topic. It's not like I'm trying to. I'm trying to think of an example. It's not a small thing that I'm trying to sort of steal some information. We're all learning with this. So I think that sense of sharing is really important. I think the bit that I guess my ambition for it would be, I mean, in part obvious, which is everyone to know more, right? So I've gone through this, and it's funny, like as you learn more, so you can talk more, so more conversations seem to come from it. I just feel like this is a topic, is something I've been talking about in the last fortnight, probably more than I have done in a long while. And the topic, some of the things I've learned through just even the initial things that I've watched and read have, I would say, 2 clients and 1 pitch. It is informed work in all those instances. So it does feel like one of those things that it's such a prominent topic. It's coming up a lot. Knowing more about it is essential. And you don't have to suddenly be an expert to be able to have quite a well-informed, open discussion with people, is my experience of it.
Tony, thank you. It's fantastic to hear how it's being used already. And yeah, tapping into the sentiment that we all have to learn and accelerate our thinking in this work together at the same time if we are to create the changes required. I want to move on to another question, because I'm really keen to hear about examples of work in your agencies that align with the concept around promoting sustainable behaviours and lifestyles in the work. And Lola and Rosie, perhaps you'd like to answer that. Lola, perhaps first, would you like to answer what have you been working on in your agency that you'd like to share, like work that's in this space?
Yeah, for sure. So we have lots of really interesting examples at AMV over the past few years. So there are things like trash aisles, COPE address air pollution. We're doing some really exciting work with Ford, and their new positioning, with Asda in the past, and on smart meter as well, about joining the quiet revolution. Certain issues really prominent in people's minds. So trash aisles was a great example of that, around the plastic problem in the oceans. But the one I wanted to particularly talk about today is a campaign that went live this year for Sheba called Hope Grows. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, because it's a global campaign, so ran in lots of other markets. But essentially the context is Mars are working to be sustainable within a generation. And part of that is looking to be 100% fish sustainable in their pet care business. And Sheba is at the forefront of that. But what we really wanted to focus on in in this brief, which I think is an important learning for this group, is that there's one thing which is undoing the bad. So removing all of the unsustainable climate damaging behaviors from your supply chain, which obviously is hugely important and fundamental and connects it to the brand and the business and the product. But there's also an opportunity in this world to look at how you can create a net positive as well. And how can you actually restore the good in a certain issue in a certain way that actually creates a net positive contribution to helping climate change. So what we did within that program around fish sustainability is look at what do we need to make fish more sustainable? What's the net positive we can make? And it's got us into a coral restoration program, because basically coral reefs are the rainforests of the ocean. They have a huge impact on climate change, but also fish stocks. And those fish stocks, 500 million people globally rely on those, let alone all of the food that we eat from the oceans and all of the cats that like eating that food as well. So if we're going to be sustainable, how can we help with ocean health through coral reef restoration? And what we did is we put a reef in the ocean, in the Indonesian Triangle, which is an area for spawning lots of fish. I think it's around 50% of fish stocks in the world come from that area, and it's been desolated through bad fishing practices. And basically what we did, we plant these coral stars, we call them, and you attach their metal structures, you attach to the bottom of the ocean, and you attach coral onto them. And then this coral reef has grown and it has thrived in that time, and we've got a large increase in the number of marine life that's returned. Basically, the creative idea within that was hope grows. And this is the point that I want to make. Instead of just creating that coral reef, we actually wrote out the word hope in huge letters on the ocean floor that you could see from space. So we were like working with Google of like when the satellite was going over the coral reef, trying to align so they could take pictures of it, which was rather fun. But essentially we made a growing, living billboard that shows there can be man-made solutions to man-made problems. And the idea behind all of it is that if we can spark that, little bit of hope here, and it will spark somewhere else, and it will spark somewhere else, and it will inspire. And this whole reef restoration project for Sheba has now travelled beyond Indonesia. Mars have committed, the parent company Mars have committed millions to this, to creating 2 million new thriving coral colonies around the world. And that is something that only a business or a brand could do. The government aren't going to be able to do that independently, to create an initiative that can spread across the globe in that way. And so I actually think the opportunity for our industry is within the essence of that idea of how can we inspire hope and make hope grow for climate change to happen? How can we talk to our clients and take all the amazing things they're doing internally and shine a spotlight on them? How can we normalize this behavior across everything that we do, and how can we inspire and start to get momentum behind solving this issue?
I love that idea, Lola. Yes, it's not necessarily all about shifting a behavior or normalizing sustainable behaviors, but it's about the mindset as well, inspiring that shift from hopelessness to hope that's required in people and societies around the world. So really great to hear about that. Rosie, may just have time to hear a quick example from you before we close.
A quick example. I'll just talk about a nice example of one of our Unilever brands, Hellmann's. They're on a mission to reduce food waste, which is a huge global problem, but also a massive problem in the UK as well, and has enormous associated carbon emissions. So in response to this brief, we teamed up with Channel 4 to create a kind of ad-funded program, a 4-part program called Cook Clever and Waste Less with Prue and Ruthie. And essentially the show aimed to educate viewers and inspire behaviour change, kind of educating families about how to meal plan, batch cook and reuse leftovers in order to reduce their food waste. And as a piece of content, we were very proud of it. It was a great piece of work. But what was really exciting was seeing the impact of that. We're able to measure that as a direct result of the show, 3.1 million kilograms of food waste was reused rather than ending up in landfill. and that's which is saving about 5.9 million kilograms of carbon dioxide emissions, which is the equivalent of a year's worth of electricity for 1,500 houses, so an average village in the UK. And that's a 4-part program. So that's a really small piece of activity which had a big tangible impact. So you think about across all of our clients, we're all doing this. We can make big tangible impact and really shift behaviour at scale, and that's a pretty exciting opportunity, I think.
That's fantastic to hear that, and great to hear you managed to put an impact as well. You managed to put a number to how that campaign has influenced reductions on emissions. We all love a number. I think we're coming up to time, and this is quite frustrating. I felt like we had so much more we could discuss and share our examples and how we're connecting with the idea of the Alliance, but I'm going to have to conclude. And I conclude with just a reflection I've been having. It's just thinking about COP this week and next week, and it feels like such an incredible time to be alive and to be fully aware of the things that need to change and quickly, and connect with the idea that in our industries, we can direct our talent and our expertise to be in service of a better world. So I'd just like to conclude with an invitation. The invitation is here for those who are listening to join the Alliance. So if you are in the UK as an agency, a network, a media owner or a client, details are on our website and how you can join. And if you're outside the UK, as I know many of you are, joining from other regions to understand how you can apply this Ad Net Zero to your industries, do get in touch also. We hope to shape the Alliance in your region. So we have plans to take it global. So get in touch and be part of that conversation as well. So with that, I just want a big thank you and appreciation to Tony, Lola and Rosie for joining me today to hear more about Change the Brief Alliance. Thank you.